let's say you're playing a game, right? And you're trying to find the player's health address. And let's say you do find it, and it is stored at 0076B1B4, right? And I can show you that this is my health address by changing the value to 999. As you can see, it does change, right? But what happens when we restart the game and come back? And suddenly, that same address that you used before for the health address does not work anymore, right? Your health is somewhere completely different. So how are you supposed to make a program that can find your players every single time? The answer is one of the most important concepts in both C++ and reverse engineering. It's pointers. Before pointers make sense, we need to understand memory. When a program runs, it stores information inside your computer's memory. That could be, for example, health, ammo, position, usernames, all sorts of stuff. But these values need somewhere to actually live. You can imagine RAM like an absolutely massive collection of numbered storage boxes. The number on the left is the memory address. The thing stored there is the value. So maybe 0x1004 points to the value 100, and that 100 represents our health. The problem is that the address isn't necessarily going to stay there forever or stay the same forever. Let's restart our practice game. Earlier, the health was stored at 0076B1B4, but now imagine it's at 0079487C. So what happened? Modern operating systems don't guarantee that everything will be placed exactly at the same absolute address every time the program runs. And games also allocate objects dynamically. So hard coding, for example, isn't a reliable solution. What we really need is a way to find the object again. And this is where pointers start becoming useful. A pointer sounds complicated, but the basic idea is actually really simple. A pointer is a variable that stores a memory address. That's it. Let's say we have int health equals 100. Somewhere in memory, that variable has an address. Maybe the address of health is, and the value, as we said, is 100. Now we create a pointer. This is an example in C++. The and symbol means give me the address of the health. So a health pointer doesn't contain 100. It contains something like the address of it. So maybe 0x5000. And 0x5000 is where our health value lives. That's why it is called a pointer. It basically points to another location in memory. The star and the and symbol. This is probably the part that confuses most people when learning pointers. These two symbols right here. So let's simplify them. If we have, for example, then we also have this really just means give me the address of health. So imagine health is equal to 100, and we do the address of health is equal to 0x5000. So now let's create a pointer. So this is an example in C++. The pointer contains the address, the PTR. So 0x5000. But what if I want the value stored at the address? For example, if health is 100, that's where dereferencing comes in. So we dereference the pointer by putting that little star symbol. This means go to the address stored inside pointer and give me what's there. So for example, PTR is the address of 0x5000, and then we dereference it by putting the star, which gives us the address of, for example, health. So it's 100. Now let's connect this back to games. A game usually doesn't just have random unrelated variables floating around. It might have some kind of player object or like struct containing information about the player. Conceptually, imagine this right here. So this is a C++ program. It's a struct about a player containing all the information and data and value inside of one struct. So for example, here the player has the health, the ammo, the positions, or the position, all in one struct. In memory, imagine that player object looking something like this. Those little distances from the beginning of the start are called offsets. So if we know where the player starts and health is some distance from that starting point, we can describe the location conceptually as player address plus the health offset. For example, the player equals 0x5000 and the health offset is 0x04. The health location would be the player plus the offset. And this is why you'll constantly hear about pointers and offsets when learning reverse engineering. Okay, so now let's put everything together. The game starts, and then memory gets allocated. Player objects exist somewhere. We gotta find those by reverse engineering. Pointer leads to player. The offsets describe the fields, for example, health, ammo, position. And that's why simply finding health equals 100 isn't the whole problem, right? The more important question is, how can we reliably find that value again? Pointers help us represent relationships between objects in memory. And once you understand that, a ton of C++ and reverse engineering concepts suddenly start making more sense. So remember these things. Number one, every variable stored in memory has an address. Number two, a pointer stores an address. For example, the address variable means give me its address, while dereferencing it means give me the value at that address this pointer contains. And finally, games can organize information into objects with values located at offsets relative to those objects. And that's the basic reason pointers are so important when learning how programs and games work in memory. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. And one quick note, in the last video we looked at the math behind aiming in the 3D world. Today we went deeper into memory and learned why pointers exist and how they are important. For the next video we could take this further and look how games actually organize player data in memory, including structs, offsets, and entity lists. If this helped pointers finally make sense, please subscribe. And we are going to keep building on this stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.